CBS Sports golf analyst Rick Gehman and Patrick McDonald join us with reaction, fellas. A captivating Sunday for myriad reasons. Chasing 4 to start, outright leader by the 8th tee. Not necessarily open and shut from there to the finish, but Rick, inevitability once again on display.
It just snaps his fingers every Sunday. He makes it happen. Scottie Scheffler is the greatest player in the world. It's not even remotely close. I love that he got a moment, right? I think that's the only possible thing that we've been able to say about negatively about Scottie Scheffler is like, what's the best shot he's hit in the last 4 years? And I still think the chip-in final round of the 2022 Masters on 4 there is still number 1. But this might just snuck into the number 2 spot. That shot that he hit on 17 was a masterclass. The door was slightly ajar for Robert MacIntyre, who had been hanging tough. That is a shot that you could hit in the water. It is a shot that you could leave 15 feet short. He rolls it in at absolute perfect speed. This thing takes 11, 12 seconds to get across the green surface, and I just love that he's got the club up 8 feet out. He knows it's going in. Everybody knows it's going in. Look at this. He is an absolute menace, and I have no more words to say about Scottie Scheffler. I've run out of adjectives at this point.
I mean, it's unbelievable stuff time and again. And here, as you said, a moment, tough day for the he doesn't have any moments crowd. Certainly so. Patrick, can you outline the difficulty of that shot? Because he makes these things look so rudimentary. I mean, just plop it down where it needs to be and roll it to the hole, but what's beyond that pin looming, what that would mean to a scorecard, the situation and the difficulty of that shot. Take us through it.
Absolutely, and I would just say he missed it in the correct place. You juxtapose that with Bobby MacIntyre's chip, who landed it pin high, rolled it across the green, past the green, into a bit of a difficult spot. Meanwhile, Scottie Scheffler, he was never messing with that flag. Luckily, he had that one-stroke lead to deal with, but he really opened up that pin with that chip by where he missed it left of the green. Robbie Calland, our CBS Sports golf writer, was on the scene. He said he walked past the line and was like, good luck, Scottie. No chance you're getting this within 3 feet. Meanwhile, I guess he didn't get it within 3 feet. Technically got it within 0 inches there. But I think it's just what we've talked about so much with how many outs this guy has. He just applies so much pressure on his playing competitors, because when something's not quite working, well, he has that world-class short game to always back up on. And I think that shot is just really emblematic of Scheffler's well-rounded nature, and obviously very difficult given the situation. But the way he was able to use his hands, it's such an underrated aspect of Scheffler's game, is he always seems to have those chips be within tap-in distance, and this one just a little bit better.
We are in the Scottie era, becomes the second player in the last 40 years to win 5 times or more in back-to-back seasons. Scheffler and Tiger Woods 6 instances of such greatness. Patrick, he does it with what grade game this week? Because I don't want to nitpick, but he's fighting the lefts for much of the week. Putter a little shaky on Sunday. The chip will be the moment we remember, but results-based business. How much was untapped here this week?
A-, I think. Maybe that's a little rude, but you look at the 3 bogeys on his scorecard today, Joe, all very avoidable. I think Scottie probably didn't really miss a shot from tee to green, I would say, outside of maybe number 16, not getting that par 5, but had 3 bogeys on the scorecard, all came from misses within 5 feet from the hole. And there was even a moment on Friday, you could say, Scheffler was 10 strokes back. We kind of talked about it on the network show, and it just felt like, all right, Scottie Scheffler's still going to win this golf tournament. But it felt like today Scheffler made it a little bit difficult on himself, just because that putter, for whatever reason, within 5 feet was a little bit shaky. Everywhere else it was A+ on my board, but I think throughout the week, in totality, I'd give him an A-, because an A+ Scottie Scheffler probably wins this one by a half dozen, I would say.
I was going to also give him an A-, but I don't want to agree with Patrick. So I'll give him a B+, a B+ here. And Patrick pointed out a couple of the kind of short misses, shaky putts on Sunday. I go back to earlier in the week. The around the green game, the scrambling wasn't as sharp as we've seen. He actually struggled out of greenside bunkers this week, and he did kind of open the door a little bit, just a little bit, for for Robert MacIntyre on Sunday. So it's certainly not an A+, because Patrick's right. Scottie Scottie would have ran away with this by 5, 6, 7 shots. We've seen him do that all the time, but he could have won this with maybe the C-plus game. I mean, it just doesn't matter. He finds a way to keep himself in contention like nobody we've ever seen, at least post Tiger Woods, and he closes out so many of these opportunities. It's jarring stuff. I love the back-to-back 5-win season stat. That's like my current favorite Scottie Scheffler stat out of the hundreds of great ones that we have access to.
All right, I got a couple more for you here. 13 consecutive top 8 finishes, 5 wins and 2 majors in his last 10 starts. Does anybody know any hard games would be the question here. It was plenty difficult for Bobby Mack on Sunday. Heck of a week, but a 3 over 73 on Sunday. Rick, how much of this was the law of averages catching up to MacIntyre, and how much was just sharing that stage with the leading man?
I will give Robert MacIntyre the benefit of the doubt and say that 80% of this was regression to the mean. You know, he was doing something through 54 holes that had only been done basically 9 times in the last 6 years. He was picking up 7 shots on approach, and he was picking up 7 shots with the putter. It's a very, very unsustainable thing to do. It's very difficult to do. So there was obviously going to be some regression there. He had already gained, you know, enough strokes through 36 holes to win this golf tournament more often than not in the last 10 years. That was unsustainable. The couple of bogeys early and not taking advantage of the par 5 fourth, that was probably Scottie Scheffler related. So that's the other 25% of this, where you have to stand on the first tee on Sunday in one of the biggest moments of your life, and you have to play alongside Scottie Scheffler, and he's just you know, taking strokes from you one hole at a time. So all in all, great week for Robert MacIntyre. I enjoyed the battle late after the slow start. He was able to keep his head above water and at least make Scottie Scheffler think about this championship. But I, to your original question, Joe, will say this was about 75% of him coming back down to earth.
And I would say some part of that Baltimore crowd, too. Of course, they roll with Scottie Scheffler to the American, being a Ryder Cup year. We saw the back and forth with Bobby Mack and the fans there on Saturday as well. A lot of USA chants, but he just did not make it easy on himself from the start, right? He hit his first fairway with a driver in hand on number 10. The only fairway he hit was on number 5 with an iron in hand, made bogey on that hole, too, with a wedge from the middle of the fairway. And so all those putts that he was making the first 3 days that were for birdie, unfortunately for Bobby Mack in the beginning portion of this round, they were for par, and we saw him just really bleed easy strokes back to the field when he had an opportunity there on number 3. That was a scoring chance from inside 8 feet that he missed, and it just seemed like he was never really comfortable with the environment, with the setting. But like Rick mentioned, to his credit, he hung tough. I mean, he made that birdie there on the par 5 16th. He is only 1 back with 2 to go. He'd probably take that position at the onset of the week, and unfortunately, he got Scottie Scheffler in the end.
391 feet of putts holed, over the first 3 days. 53 feet of putts holed here on Sunday. Rick Gehman tells us always, when the putter's going, it's going to cool. It's just a matter of when. The when was the wrong time for Bobby Mack in this instance. We also had some quality drama on that top 30 line down the stretch, fellas. Akshay plays himself out. Harry Hall surges in with a chip-in moment of his own, but I think self-inflicted wounds for Rickie probably going to produce the hardest night's sleep, if you will. Patrick, what do you take away from that inward 37 from Fowler?
Tough, very tough pill to swallow, I think, especially when you think about the 2 big mistakes. Rickie Fowler was in the middle of the fairway there on 14, makes bogey with a really weak iron shot to the right, unable to get up and down. And then he said he got gusted on 15, and it felt like one of those moments where he probably could have played a little bit safe and gotten at least a bogey out of it on 15, but he felt like he needed to make par right on the bubble there, leaves it at his feet pretty much, makes a double bogey, and then you compound that with not taking advantage of the easiest hole on the golf course, the par 5 16th, and it's a really bitter pill to swallow for Fowler, especially like I've been mentioning all week. This is a guy on that top 30 bubble who is barely inside the top 100 in the OWGR. He's not in any major championships in 2026. With the exemption in the Tour Championship, you also get a 1-year exemption on the PGA Tour. That would have come in handy for Rickie Fowler as well. So he has work to do with all the signature events he's in at least next year. But it would have been a huge moment for Fowler to get inside the Tour Championship and make East Lake. But unfortunately, just poor shots at a poor time.
And a poor point made by me. Akshay Bhatia, after the dust did settle, finds himself right inside that line at 30. It's Kim on the outside. So Akshay, after missing that one on the 72nd hole, sits, waits, and still makes it to Atlanta. Rick, a thought on Akshay or Rickie? It's gut-wrenching stuff for a guy that's always so easy to root for.
Yeah, the Rickie thing is so interesting. He'll give himself a leg up for 2026, right, to get to the Tour Championship next year because he is in all of those signature events, but he's going to miss out on it this time around. And I do think that those bogeys, those errors, they were self-inflicted. They weren't the greatest shots in the world. I also think that part of that, Joe, is the nature of the FedEx Cup points system. Rickie doesn't know exactly what he needs to do in the moment. He can look at the leaderboard and he can see where he's currently projected. He might think, hey, I need a birdie here, or I need 2 birdies coming in. And to Patrick's point, probably took on a little bit more risk than he needed to take on. He probably could have gone a more conservative route and found himself in the top 30, but they're trying to figure that out in the moment. They don't know how many shots they need. So it's this little tango that he and his caddy are trying to do to make sure they get in the clubhouse and give themselves the best possible chance. Everybody roots for Rickie. I root for Rickie. It was a great year, a 2025 campaign that will certainly be one of his better in the last half decade or so, but Holt falls short of Eastlake.
It's simple math moving forward with 30 on to Atlanta, the Tour Championship upcoming. Gentlemen, great stuff as always. A look here at your FedEx Cup playoff winners. Scottie Scheffler looking to go back-to-back. These are FedEx Cup playoff events in consecutive seasons. Scheffler clips the Tour Championship a year ago with starting strokes. He clips the BMW this season. We'll see if he can become the first ever to go back-to-back at the Tour Championship.